Hey now, everybody. Hey now. Shane R. Monroe here. Welcome to Live at 5, Friday, June 23rd. Very exciting today, all about the Ally. That's right. I could use a sound check from anybody who happens to be in the chat already. Got a couple of minutes before we officially start. Well, many of you have written to me saying, where's our weekly check-in with the Ally? You've had it for a whole week and you haven't told us what you like and what you don't like. And honestly, that's sort of been on purpose. If you have been on Reddit, I have made some discussion. If you follow my community tab here on YouTube, I have made a lot of discussions. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I kind of wanted to wait. Sounds good? Great. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate that. So we have our live feed over here of the Ally, and of course we have a direct feed on the Ally there as well. My poor Steam Deck has been relegated to the back this last week. Although I will tell you that I'm still been playing Overwatch 2 on it, and that has to do with gyro. All about the gyro. Let's see what we got going on here. I got about one more minute before we officially start. Indeed. Yes. I've got so much. Let me bring up my list here. I was going to figure out some way of putting it on the screen, but too much crap on the screen already, I think. Little screen overload. But yeah, I've got tons of things to talk about. Several people on Reddit were not able to make the stream tonight. Sorry, I'm going to sit here and pick my nose. One of the problems of being on camera. A lot of people on Reddit had asked if they could submit some questions ahead of time, and then they'll watch the feed later. How could I go wrong, right? So I will be answering several Reddit questions that they will pick up later on when they watch the replay. And of course, right now, you can get started by putting your questions, if you have them, inside the chat, and I'll try to keep an eye on those as well. But really, tonight, okay, so it's 5 o'clock. We can get started. See, we have plenty of people in here. Great. Let me see. Let me make sure that I got the other chat window where I can get to it. Don't really need to pay attention to that window, not that window. Have a couple of windows. Huzzah! That's right. Thank you, Javier. Been a big fan of The Great, thanks to Alex Lopez there. One of my favorite new shows. Been sick with a respiratory infection this week. Apologize if I cough. I'll try to do it like off the microphone, but it has been trying this week. I've got a Z-Pack right here, so I'm good to go to hopefully knock that in the bud. Get back to recording videos. Huzzah indeed. Okay, well, we are here, of course, to talk about the Asus Ally, the ROG Ally, depending on how you pronounce it. Howdy. Hey, Russell. Welcome to the show. So I have already done some stuff already on the Ally for you. I've already started putting up some videos of how to get around particular problems. Things like the lock screen, using a local account. These are things that I've been sharing as I experience them, as I do setups. Double XP this weekend on Call of Duty. Excellent. I will definitely be attending that, probably on this little guy right here, because actually Call of Duty does work on here thanks to Windows. Okay, so let me just move these windows around one more time. I swear I'm almost done with this. I kind of keep an eye on everything. So I think we can get started. So let's talk about the Asus Ally. It has not been without its problems this week. One of my, don't go to sleep. Very aggressive sleep profile I've got on that thing. It has not been a banner week for the Asus Ally. And this is one of those things I sort of was warning people about early on. About a week ago, I think, a week and a half ago, I started talking about, you need to wait until these production units get in the hands of people, because what you've got are compensated endorsers. You've got YouTube influencers who have been given these products, probably some specific guidelines of what to and not to show off. And, a lot of things can be attributed to pre-production units. You don't know what the production units are going to be like, right? So, what's that going to pan out to be? Well, it's apparently, hey, Vargas from Australia. Very nice. What time is it there? I'm curious. You're up late or early, depending on how that goes. Someplace I'm not super excited to go, Australia. Like 8 of the 10 most deadliest animals on the planet live in Australia. Anyway, don't want to get sidetracked here. So they've had plenty of problems this week. A lot of quality control problems. A lot. I mean, we all joke about, Asus and quality control problems, but it has been absolutely ridiculous. On Reddit, we actually had somebody posted that they were returning. It's 10 a.m. Cool. Oh, great. That's perfect time to listen then. Hey, Javier. One guy was posting that he was on his way back to Best Buy to return his for, I believe, a Wi-Fi problem. There was at least 2 other open boxes, one other guy waiting in line, and he met another guy in the car going in as he left that were returning their allies due to physical defects or problems. Asus recently, in the last 48 hours, released a notice not to use the SD card slot. Thank you, Javier. I didn't catch that. I'm a little slow here. I got too many screens. I'm like totally overwhelmed with all the crap I got going on. But anyway, so he was saying that, you're talking about 5 returns at one Best Buy in the course of like an hour. So it's absolutely crazy that there people are showing case problems where the case is melting under the heat of the vents. You're seeing cases that are starting to separate. You already heard from me about the fact that the analog sticks feel very, very loose. I mean, I have trouble believing that they were supposed to be that loose. But anyway, so there's been plenty of problems. This whole SD card thing has got people really freaked out because there's an insinuation, no proof yet. There's an insinuation that the SD card slot, the controller itself, the hardware of the SD card slot's got a problem. That this is not something they're going to be able to fix with firmware or software. So, wow. I mean, that's maybe I should put something on here. Hang on. I'll put something on that'll actually do something. I'll put Emulation Station running, and it will constantly barrage us with a random assortment of video games. I'll just leave it there with no volume. That should hopefully maybe keep it awake. Anywho, so yeah, I mean, listen, we all gave Steam Deck a ton of crap about the formatting SD cards and those formats causing the cards to be destroyed. It's happening here too. I don't know what it is about SD card slots. It's absolutely bonkers. When I put in my 1 terabyte Ultra card just to give myself some sort of storage. I know the Ultra card sucks, especially for downloading, but I had tons of problems. In fact, when I went to and then I replaced it. Don't worry, you won't have a video of mine without a dog barking in the background. It's just the way it's going to be. If you're a longtime fan of this show and this program, then you'll know that my dogs always bark at the most inopportune time. So anyhow, yeah, so we've got some quality control problems, and it turned out, this is so weird. This is totally bizarro. I even posted this on my community tab. I wanted to wipe my Ally clean and start from scratch and only use a local account. I didn't want any Microsoft account attached to the device at all. So first off, by the way, you cannot. This is one of the down things. I've got a list right over here of things that have concerned me about the Ally. One of them is you cannot flash your own image. So in other words, if you would like to download a full system recovery image for your Ally, you can't. The only way that you can restore your Ally from scratch is to use their BIOS-driven cloud recovery system, of which people have already been having problems with it. There's no way to actually flash this thing back. So that's kind of creepy. I'm assuming you could find some sort of boot BIOS and maybe install Windows fresh that way. But if you want what came out of the factory, the only way to do it, no CDs or recovery images, you have no choice but to use their cloud recovery system, which people have already, like I said, reported problems with. I had a problem with it too. And even worse than that, it turns out that the problem was the SD card. Yeah, no kidding, right? So what was happening is I had the recovery going, and it got to a loading screen and just sat there like 30, 40 minutes. No indication anything was going on, nothing happening. And I was going to stop and restart the process, right? I mean, that's what happens. Something hangs, you restart it. But for some reason, something just said to me, eject the SD card. I ejected the SD card. Boom. The whole recovery process went from that point on with no problems. So I don't know what's going on here, but there's something creepy about the SD card slot, and more people are reporting problems. So that is one of those, that's one of those things where, the poor Steam Deck people who had to deal with their SD card slot problems early on, maybe get a little bit of respite here watching Ally deal with their growing pains as well. So anyway, so let's talk about the Ally. I've been using it pretty much as my main handheld for the last week. I took it on a trip. I went into a hotel, signed onto a hotel Wi-Fi. I did all the sort of things that you would hope that one might do with a handheld device. Take it on the road, that sort of thing. And I'm ready to talk about it. I'm ready to give you my sort of weekly outcome on the device itself. So. Let me go to my list of Reddit questions. So Elevator Dave, I love some of these names, by the way. My brother-in-law expressed interest in getting one. He has little to no experience with computers outside of basic usage and internet. I think he would get frustrated with the Steam Deck. How would the Ally do for someone like him? I swear to God, I didn't make these questions up. These are actually on Reddit right now if you go look for them. The answer to the question is, now it depends on the fact when he says internet and basic usage, I'm assuming he's talking about Windows and not like a Chromebook. I mean, if this guy's running a Chromebook and he's on Chrome and he's using the web all the time and that's his full experience with computers, probably it's not going to matter which one he goes with. However, if you even have basic Windows knowledge, if you're a basic Windows gamer, if you know your way around Windows at all, the Ally is probably going to be a better solution for you. In this case, I think that Elevator Dave's brother-in-law could absolutely make do with the Ally and probably get have a good time with it and get a lot out of it. Saved by the Bale of Haze, the next question. As someone who only plays my deck at home and plugged in, battery life means nothing to me. I just want to game without taking up the TV. Do you think the ROG is a worthy upgrade if you don't care about battery life? I'm going to touch on that a lot more in just a couple of minutes. Their upgrade or better or any of that is sort of subjective, and you'll understand why when I'm done with this video. You'll understand why I say it's subjective. Total Routine 9085 asks, you may have already been talking about this, but I personally would love to hear how the sleep and wake functions operate. Apparently not a lot of people were talking about that. I have done a handful of tests. I will not consider it all conclusive, but there's two different things with Windows, right? There's sleeping and there's hibernating. And in sleep mode, everything seems to be okay. I played Mad Max. I paused it. I waited for an hour, came back. I restarted it, and everything seemed to be fine. The game resumed. Didn't crash. Everything seemed okay. Very much like the Steam Deck. However, it's a very small sampling, and at some point in time, the Armory Crate will actually inadvertently, if you don't have it set up right or you let it sleep too long, it goes into hibernation. I don't think the game would survive hibernation, but it will survive sleep. So there may be some configurations. That's something I have to do more testing on, to be honest. I need to see if going to sleep and waking up works for everything, because let's be honest, the Steam Deck is freaking amazing. That whole sleep and wake thing that they've got going on, however much it costs them in R&D to make that happen, genius. There are a few people that have weird sound problems when it wakes up. A couple people have reported crashes. But I can tell you right now that my experience with sleep mode on the deck has been absolutely phenomenal. And I haven't really given it a huge amount of testing on the Ally just yet. But it is on my list of things to do. Typically speaking, what I've been playing on the Ally are things I can't play on the deck. These are things like Call of Duty, which means I play for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half hour. I exit out of the game and I'm done. It's not like I'm playing a long 55-hour solo game where I may not have a save point or something and I just put the machine to sleep and then come back and get to it another time. SSD micro. That's from Draytheo. What do you mean by SSD micro? I want to get to your point here. Yeah, so sleep and wake seems to work, but there's a difference between sleeping and hibernating, and I need to kind of do a little bit more monkeying around with that. Solony Socan. I love Reddit names. I really do. Mine's just Dark Uni. How boring. What do you think of the Steam Deck's affordability longevity now that we have some real competition in the form of the Ally? Is it still worth getting a Steam Deck in 2023? Yeah, it sure is, especially depending on who you are. And we're going to talk about the player profile for both of these devices. The Ally has a very specific player profile, and it overlaps a little bit with Steam Deck owners, and Steam Deck people have their own profile. And we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. It's on my list of things to do. Can it run Round Guard? Of course it can run Round Guard. I actually think I have that installed right now before my last nuking. Let's see. So that finishes up the Reddit questions, and I haven't seen any more questions outside of can it run Round Guard, which, of course, Round Guard is life, right? So let me see here. I took some notes as I was doing my installation, as I was doing my first setup, as I was unboxing everything that I was doing with the Ally for the first 24 to 48 hours. I took notes on, and so I'll share these quick notes, these quick items with you. Sorry, it's really rough. Okay, so let's talk about the speakers. I mean, I made little snippet notes about everything. The speakers are loud, but they're not quite as high fidelity. So the speakers are louder, but not quite the fidelity of the deck. They're really close. Most of you will probably not know the difference. I could tell a little bit of the difference. The Valve speakers have better fidelity, but not as loud. So it depends on what is most important to you. Windows sucks with the touchscreen. There should be nothing I need to expand upon that. Windows is not great with the touchscreen, even in tablet mode or whatever. I'll tell you, the Ally with touchscreen, not great. And there's more to talk about that in just a minute. Gyro. This thing's supposed to have a gyro in it, but you can't use it. It doesn't work with anything. People have said that they've got the handheld companion working with it. Some people have backported the GPD Win gyro controls and made it work. I spent about 2 hours trying to get the gyro to work on anything with absolutely no luck. And as a person who is now completely addicted to gyro play with first-person shooters, that really is a stick in the mud. Now, I believe it'll come. I believe over time that the gyro functionality will be unlocked in a big way on the Ally. It just isn't yet. So if gyro is a big selling point, no. Russell T, ever get the fingerprint to work? You know what? The fingerprint stuff appears to require Windows Hello, and Windows Hello appears to require a Microsoft account. So by nature of that, I am currently running 100% local account only. So I don't believe I'll be able to get the I do not believe I'll be able to get the fingerprint reader working in that scenario. But no, I never did get the fingerprint reader to work. Other people say they got it to work, but you guys were with me when I did my initial setup, and that thing just wasn't playing ball. Let's see. No way to kill a game. Now, how about that? Does that seem like a huge oversight to you? Like, if you're in the middle of a game and you just want to dump it, on the Steam Deck, you hit the Steam button, and you go down to quit game, and it's over. That doesn't really exist on the Ally. That seems like a huge oversight to me. In fact, if you want to quit, like if I were to go to the go here right now, see how it says that the emulation station's running? Okay, I can't stop it. The best I can do is run something else, and it might ask me if I want to close all running programs. But that seems, God, that seems so kludgy, right? It seems kludgy. And everything, if that's like the number one, that's like the number one word I would use for the Ally's interface, right? Forget about the hardware, just the software. I would call it kludgy. Because every time you turn around, you're running into something that's like, that seems like we could have done something better with that. The iFixit tear down the joysticks or Joy-Con like sucks. Yeah, those have got to go. I mean, listen, I'm not returning the unit. I'm going to keep it because, you know, I enjoy working with the product and I enjoy making videos and helping people out. But in all honesty, I need better analog sticks. People will defend them to the death, and I don't know if some people are just getting better ones than others. They're not great. They're not. I thought that was James Bond. I was looking up there going, wait a minute, I know that game. It's James Bond. I played it on the 2600 though. Yeah, so I'm waiting patiently for Joy-Con replacements, and they will come. It's just a matter of time. Let's see. Yeah, can't kill a game. That just seemed so crazy to me. Visual modes should not be missed. So what I mean by that is, I don't know if I've got them on here. Dang it. I bet I don't. Gross. I had it before I nuked before I nuked things. I had it set up, but you can go to gaming visuals, and you have all sorts of, it's sort of like having Vibrant Deck built in. You can toggle between various types of color saturation and contrast and color, and you can change the color temperature. This, of course, is obviously a very nice improvement over the Steam Deck. Even with the Vibrant Deck plugin, it's still a great thing. I'm trying to save my throat here. Yeah, so yeah, the visual modes are fantastic, and the screen really makes use of them. We all know that the screen is a little bit better on the Ally. Is it OMG? I can't believe I don't have it better. I don't see that. A lot of people do, and I think that's product purchase confirmation. Listen, the screen's great. It's fine. I just don't find it to be, especially when you knock it down to 720p, 60 hertz, because that's what everyone's doing, right? Everyone talks about the capabilities of the Ally, but not how everybody's actually using the Ally. I constantly see people like turning it down as far as they can, turning down the specs, going 60 hertz, dropping to silent mode, and they're bragging about how great it is that they can play these games on the Ally using like no power, but they're still not exceeding what the deck is doing. And the deck apparently can do lower wattage better. I haven't done my own personal tests yet. It's only been a week, folks. Lots to do. But, yeah, I mean, people are basically boasting about how much battery power they can get with it, but they're essentially turning it into a Steam Deck, which is one of those things where it's like the person who asked, I just don't care about battery life. Is it a worthy upgrade? And again, I'm going to get to that in a minute because I find there's a very interesting correlation between power, performance, and output, and I'm going to share that with you a bit later on here. I'm getting distracted by the stupid emulation station slideshow going on. Let's see. Yeah, all the things about Windows that you don't like are there, front and center. UAC, right? User account control, firewall. So nothing like running a game from Steam and having a Windows firewall item pop up and ask you to allow the game through. You know, these are the sorts of things that probably should have been pre-configured or at least done on a startup screen. Oh, it's brand new, dude. Why are you giving it such crap? It's a brand new thing. They'll get that in there. I know they won't. No, they won't. That's all Windows stuff, dude. They're not going to go in and configure the lock screen for you. They're not going to go in and allow, and change firewall rules. Microsoft probably said they can't. So all of these good things like UAC, which pisses everybody off, and firewall pisses people off, and Microsoft accounts piss people off. All of those things have to, all those things are there. BJ, the primary negative factor for the Ally that pushed me off the fence to get a Steam Deck was your setup video and how awfully long and overcomplicated the process was. So I got to be fair. Now, what you saw was a unit taken from the store, right? An early release unit. Over time, they're going to ship with more of the stuff already in there. I believe this. I believe this is true. And let me tell you why I feel that way. When I wiped the Ally so that I could start over with a fresh local account, the process of re-imaging it from the cloud was like 10 times easier than it was when you watched me set it up. So what they have is, I'm assuming they work like every other PC manufacturer. They've got an image that they have honed and fine-tuned sitting on their servers, and that's what they deploy to hundreds of units at a time. What we got was probably, honestly, pre-release setup. So everything that I had to do that night was like a pre-release unit from a software point of view. So, but I will tell you, if the image that I pulled off of Cloud Recovery and reinstalled, I wish I had recorded it, but I didn't. If that's what we're going to see moving forward for, like, say, the next run of units, it looks like they're releasing new units every month based on what I've been reading. Then the setup process is a lot easier. Almost all the drivers are already up to date. I mean, there was so little I had to do after recovering it from the cloud. It was absolutely, it was a night and day difference. And so that's a fair assessment. That does not mean, though, that you're not going to have to do updates in 3 places. You're not going to have to do BIOS firmware upgrades. You know, the thing, listen, you can knock Linux all you want, but the Steam Deck has got that update process down. There's no three sources of truth when it comes to drivers and firmware and all of that stuff. It's all in one spot, and you don't even see it. It's literally transparent to the end user. It says validating files, extracting package, bang, you're back in and you're done. Nothing at all. Why is my battery running low? Is it not plugged in? Yeah. Hang on a second. That's so much crap plugged in over here. There we go. Plug in your PC. Don't even bother to rename that, huh? Okay, let me see. Sorry about that. Perfect. Now we're back in business watching the random EmuDeck stuff. So anyway, yeah. So there you go. I mean, I agree, BJ. It was a complete nightmare. It took what, an hour and 20 minutes to set it up. Other people have reported exactly the same thing. That being the case, it's not isolated to me. And I'm going to be honest with you. The ROG Ally subreddit, they're a little bit cruel to the new people. You thought it was bad on Steam Deck asking questions. You know, if you don't have an intimate relationship with Windows and you ask simple Windows questions on there, they will barbecue you. And I've been spending a lot of my last week trying to establish some sort of a decorum on there where we're not, slitting the throats of anybody who's coming from a console that's not really touched Windows before. It's pretty bad. I mean, when it comes to unfriendly subreddits, I mean, we're not off to a good start there. So let me see. What else do I have on my list? Turbo 30 watts only works with the included adapter. Boy, oh boy. This has been an eternal question the entire time I've owned the Ally. All right, so just so you guys know. So what you have here is an operating mode. So right now I'm in 20 watt turbo mode. I can toggle to 10 watt silent mode, which will kill the fans, lower the wattage output, right? So, yeah. And then you got a 15 watt performance mode, 25 watt turbo mode. Now, if I were to take the dock out from between this device, you wouldn't be able to, well, I guess you could see it. Hang on. If I were to take and plug it in directly without the dock, you're now going to see something come up that says turbo mode. And you can only see it here because I have no output. But now it shows 30 watt turbo. Now 30's got to be better than 25, right? I've got basic math skills, and I'm sure that 30 is better than 25. So we have that. Let me get this thing plugged back in. So what happens is when you plug in the official adapter or you plug in a 65 watt up to, some or higher, and you have the right cables, right? You have to have like 100 watt cables, and you plug it in, you'll get the 30 watt performance mode. And everyone's like, well, why am I not getting the 30 watt performance mode? I'm plugging in a 65 watt adapter. I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing, and it's not triggering 30 watts. Well, I sat for like 3 hours on the couch nursing this upper respiratory thing, and I was running Resident Evil 6 benchmarks across every type of power I could lay my hands on. Steam Deck power, running it through the official Steam Deck dock, using the official power bank, using the Anker 737 with 140 watt of power out, running it through all of these, doing benchmarks to see if the Ally's being hamstrung by not being in this 30 watt, or my Air Bunnies, my 30 watt turbo mode. And to be fair, the APU wattage is showing properly, and the benchmarks are saying that they're all running the same, even though the 30 watt badge is not up. Well, of course, like 48 hours ago, Asus was like, yeah, there's a problem with that. So we're looking at it. So all of these people, including myself, were going, what the hell? What do I got to plug into this thing to get 30 watts? I'm plugging in a 140 watt power supply and it's not working. So again, it's a combination of the power, the cable, and a glitch with the Asus operating system. So you've got that to deal with. Let's see. The device is encrypted by default, by the way. A lot of people were saying that the device is not encrypted. The hard drive is not encrypted by default. And it takes a long time to decrypt it. I know because I did it. It decrypts faster the less data you have. And other people were saying, listen, it's got a dedicated security chip inside for the decryption, so it's not altering your performance. Okay, that's fair. I don't know a lot about drive encryption. All I know is the last time that I heard about drive encryption, it was a performance hit. Apparently, they've got some way to make that so that it's not. But people who have been doing upgrades and things like that have reported problems with BitLocker and with encryption keys being requested that nobody has, blah, blah, blah. So I decrypted mine. Listen, I'm not keeping the cure for cancer on my Ally, so I'm not really too concerned about it. I'm not logged into my Microsoft account. The best they're going to do is play my Steam games without me. So I'm not too worried about that. But I thought that was interesting. A lot of people were saying it was not encrypted, and it definitely was. Let's see. Boot up times. I thought this was interesting. Boot up time on the Ally, after all is said and done, of course, you've done all of your loading and updates and Windows updates and driver updates and BIOS updates and everything else. When the system is calm, at peace, boot up time on the Ally is 18 seconds. The Steam Deck is 31 seconds. The fact that Windows boots faster than Linux, I thought that was sort of something I needed to talk about. So that is a plus, even though we all use sleep mode and hibernate or whatever. So it's never going to be like full boot time. So it's not that big of a deal. But when Windows boots faster than Linux, or SteamOS in this case, I had to take note, and I wanted to make sure I made a note of it to share here. The monitor overlay is not as robust or flexible on the Ally. This is actually, oddly enough, this is one of my biggest sad points about this device. So you can use the command center to turn on a real-time monitor. And this is, it's suitable. It gives you your frame rate. It gives you temperatures. But you can't really adjust this. God bless them. They put the clock on there. That's something we can't get Steam to do. But you can't, as far as I know, unless there's some secret handshake that I haven't done yet, this is it. It's on or off. Now, I understand that there's some other third-party ones you can install and that sort of thing. But I really like the versatility of the Steam Deck's overlay. I liked it a lot, actually. I do like it a lot, I should say. And I would say that the Ally has some growth to do in that department, even though I know you can put on a third-party one. I'm talking about out of the box here. Haptics. That was another thing that I was dying to do more time with in terms of, let's be honest, the Steam Deck haptics, the force feedback, the vibration of the unit, it's not great, right? You're going, come on. We should be able to do better than that in 2023. Well, 2022 in that case. But in all honesty, I would say that the Allies are slightly better. They're at least a little harder. Because sometimes haptics are triggers, right? There's a lot of games where if you're being shot, it starts to vibrate or something. And if you have no sound on, you can't tell you're being shot. The vibration sometimes is the only cue that you have. This happens a lot to me in Overwatch. I can tell when I'm being shot from behind by Diva if I'm using the right joystick and I can feel the vibration of her hitting me. Not so much on the Steam Deck and not much better on the Ally. I would give a little bit of a nod to the Ally, but listen, we're definitely not boiling the ocean with that one. Let's see. Okay, so those are some of my initial impression things. So let's talk about what I like about it the least. Listen, I don't love Windows, right? This is a standard. My standard Windows diatribe, right? I don't like Windows, but I love what I can run on it. So right now on this machine, I actually have Directory Opus, the greatest file manager of all time, is running on my handheld. If you've had to use Dolphin for more than about 20 minutes, you can understand why I get so excited about having a world-class enterprise-level file manager available to me. All of those tools that you use on your Windows PC, things like Space Sniffer, right? Space Sniffer. There's nothing even close to that on Linux, not that I could find, not that would run on the Steam Deck, right? So there are tools, there are products, there are things that you can run on Windows that you cannot run on, the Steam Deck. There's something to be said for that, right? I mean, that's a point. At the same time, you got to put up with Windows. So that's a negative point. So it sort of evens out to net zero, right? But my point here is, that is, it's a strength and a weakness depending on who you are and how you look at it. So Windows itself has been fairly quiet. Once you turn off UAC, listen, we all know how it works, right? Every time you install Windows Fresh, you got like 10 things you got to do. Everybody's got like a 10-item list of things you've got to do every time you install Windows. For me, it's degrading it to a local account, turning on the administrator account. Sometimes I want to use it. What else is there? Getting rid of the start menu. I cannot stand Windows 11 start menu. I want to go back to something closer to 7. We all have these things, right? We all have these things that we neuter Windows with. I have a whole article about neutering Windows somewhere. Turning off telemetry, getting rid of nonsense, getting rid of the lock screen. All of these nonsense things that you should be able to do, but you can't, without using a registry hack or a group policy override, right? We all have these things. Get rid of that damn start menu. Ugh. So we all have these things, and once you get Windows neutered down on the Ally properly, to your heart's content, Windows seems to be fairly unobtrusive. Where the Ally's true sort of failing point is in the nature of the cobbled together user interface, right? So you've got Windows, fine. Windows, we're not fans, right? Everybody hated Windows until it's on the Ally. Now it's everybody's greatest friend if you listen to Reddit. Oh, Windows is great. Yeah, listen, like I could probably look down your Reddit history and you're talking about how bad Windows sucks, but now that it's on the Ally, it's great. Just to kind of give you an example, let me get out of here. So you have the Windows interface, right? Not great. Certainly not great on a handheld. Touchscreen works great. We're going to talk more about the touchscreen in a minute. But as Windows, it's not great for gaming. It's not great for a handheld at all. I mean, it's just not. So you've got two bolt-ons. Your bolt-ons are the command center, which is essentially like your notification shade on an Android phone. You slide it down and you can toggle. It's a toggle screen. That's exactly what this is. It's a toggle. You can toggle your operating mode, your control mode. By the way, you can set these. I've put a few custom things in here. Overall, everything that's worth having is already here, and I've got slots for like one more that I could put in here, but they don't have anything yet that's worthy of putting in there. They got lots of other stuff. Most of it has to deal with controlling the RGB lighting and all that other stuff. But these are toggles, right? So, yeah, and they're useful. Turning on and off frame limiters, FSR, changing your refresh rates, changing your resolutions. It's not like it's not useful, but it's very obviously bolted into the system. It feels like it. It acts like it. Sometimes it's slow to come up. Sometimes I couldn't get it to come up at all. On the other button, the other overlay, the other bolt-on, which isn't, I mean, it's not even a bolt-on. It's a program. You got a hotkey that basically launches Armory Crate. That's what it does, or it brings it to focus. That's what that button does. And this is the solution, right? Armory Crate is the solution for everything else that the command center doesn't do. In other words, you're talking about things like doing setting changes, right? So this is that command center I was telling you about. You could do all your updates on there. Changing your lighting, making Aura syncs. Oh, my God. I'm so glad I'm not into any of that stuff. And then you've got things like this. Now, this is kind of cool. I mean, this will like help you install third-party lockers. Like if Steam had this, that'd be like super, but it doesn't. So that's kind of a nice thing. But you have an update center here. You have Windows updates, and as a bonus, you have a third point of entry for updates, which is the My Asus app, which also has more updates and more stuff. Everything feels like it's glued together, and it is. I mean, that's what it is. This is Windows with a couple of bolt-ons. That's to make it more gaming friendly. Now, a lot of people aren't going to care. They're like, oh, who cares? That's fine. Steam's a bolt-on. Kind of, but when you are on the deck, you can be sure on the deck when you're using it, it all feels cohesive. It feels like more of a console. This feels like a PC. And it's almost an epiphany when you reach that point, because we're going to talk about more about that in a minute. It's almost an epiphany. This is a handheld PC that also plays games, and the deck is a handheld gaming system that can also do PC stuff. That's when you start doing that, sort of that Venn diagram overlay of who is should be using what device. Who is the deck for? Who is the ally for? And who could fall between either one of them, and will probably end up owning both because they want the strengths of both without the negativity of either. But yeah, so that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about a bolt-on UI experience. And you're going, oh, I'm playing games. I don't care about that. You will. Don't worry. You will. Yeah. So let's, what time is it? Okay. It's 5:38. I was going to try to keep this to an hour. We'll see how it goes. So let's talk about who the ally is for, right? Because I don't want to sound like all I'm doing is dissing on the ally with this video. Because there's a lot of strengths in the ally, and now it's time to talk about them. Who's it for? If you're sitting on a fence right now and you're saying Steam Deck or ally, who am I? Which one should I be buying? So who the ally is for? Players of free-to-play whale games, right? If you're wanting to play Fortnite, Destiny 2, anything that's free to play that has Windows anti-cheat, if that is the larger consumption of your video game library, the answer is very clear. The ally is for you, right? If you are into, if you're into Game Pass, right? If you're a Game Pass aficionado and the majority of your time is spent playing Game Pass games, Deck's not for you. The ally is for you. It is definitely Game Pass friendly. It's built that way. In fact, Microsoft probably insisted on it. But yeah, the nonsense that it takes to get Game Pass crap working on the Steam Deck, not even installing it, but like cloud-based Game Pass, which is like a subset of a subset of a subset, right? Yeah. Listen, if Game Pass is your thing, the ally is your thing. Let's see. Those who live primarily in third-party lockers, right? If 80% of your library of games exists outside of Steam, the ally's probably for you. If you're going to spend most of your time in Ubisoft, most of your time in EA Launcher, if you're going to do nothing but play free Epic games for the entire tenure of your PC existence, the ally is for you. The Deck is not. Can the Deck do some of that? Sure. But trust me, buy the ally, you'll be a lot happier. If those people who are comfortable with Windows, right? There's a lot of people out there that know nothing about Linux, know a whole lot about Windows, or even if you only know a little bit about Windows, the ally may be for you. If you're a game modder and you're used to using Vortex and WeMod and all that other stuff, and modding is just as important as the game itself, you should be owning an ally because it's going to be the path of least resistance for you. And back to the idea, if you are looking for a portable PC that is also a handheld game system, especially with the advent of the external GPU and the ability of the ally to use it, I believe that the ally would be the superior unit for you. People with small hands, right? The ally's biggest problem for me is its ergonomics. People with small hands bitched about the Deck. People with large hands are going to bitch about the ally. That's the way that it is. If you find the Switch uncomfortable without add-on grips or clip-on grips or Hori controllers or any of that other nonsense, this is almost as uncomfortable as the Switch. It's a little better, but not a lot. The Deck, despite its weight, is far more comfortable, especially for people with bigger hands. So if you have small hands and you were concerned about the Steam Deck being too big and unwieldy for you, then the ally is probably for you. Now, one of the things that people complain about with regards to the Steam Deck is it's so heavy that it starts putting their hand to sleep or their arms to sleep. The ally does that too, just in a different way. So it's not like either one of them are super long-term comfort, but the nod goes to the Steam Deck for sure, especially if you've got larger hands. Numbers people, right? People who have to have the best of the best of the best with honor, sir, you're going to have an ally because it's got so many more numbers, better numbers than the Steam Deck does. There are people that are out there right now that are probably watching this. Listen, if numbers are your game, the Ally is the clear choice. More resolution, more pixels on the screen, better color gamut, right? Faster processor, right? I mean, listen, the big genital contest has been eternal. Bigger's better, more is better, higher numbers are better. So the number of people out there now have something that they can, that they can exploit for that. Not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that that's just the way it is. If you're dropping cash on a Windows device, a laptop would suit you better than an Ally. Yes and no. I love the footprint, right? I mean, you can look right over here. If I had a laptop, my whole desk would be covered here. But with this Ally, it's very small, something you put in your pockets-ish. I love the smaller design. I'm gonna have to get clip-ons for this. I'm gonna have to get some sort of clip-ons for the back of this thing to make it wieldy. No different than the Switch. But fortunately, this plays every game that I own versus the Switch that plays like only the Switch games that I own, and the deck which plays only certain games that I own. So you got to decide, right? People swear up and down that the ergonomics are fine. I just not for bigger hands. I'm just saying, not for bigger hands. Let's see. People who are still willing to tinker, right? Neither one of these devices that you're seeing here, not the beloved Steam Deck, not the beloved Ally, neither of these are immune to tinkering. The question is, what do you want to tinker with? Do you want to tinker with Windows, or do you want to tinker with Linux? There's a large number of people who'd rather tinker with Windows. Of course, there's a large number of people that would rather have anything but Windows on a handheld device. So we have that. Let's see. Strengths of the Ally. Strengths, the mighty Ally strengths. Windows compatibility, right? You can hate Windows all you want, but you can love what you can run on it. And by God, I love what I can run on Windows. I don't have to worry about compatibility X or locker Y. It's going to work. I can write software for the Ally. I cannot write software for the Steam Deck. Right? I have a particular set of skills, and it can only be harnessed on the Ally for me. The screen, right? Screen's a step up. No one's arguing that. Is it the monumental step up that people rave about? I don't think so. I think it's definitely an improvement. And I think a lot of people are running that 1080p screen at 720p to conserve battery. What do you think about that? So that 1080p, there when you need it, I guess, but you're probably going to be spending a lot of your time in 720p to conserve that battery life. Which, again, leads me down the path of saying, and this goes back to Saved by the Bale of Hay. Remember, for those of you who tuned in late, as someone who only plays on my deck at home and plugged in, battery life means nothing to me. I just want a game without taking up the TV. Do you think the ROG is a worthy upgrade if you don't care about battery life? I think a lot of people are leaving the Ally plugged in all the time. I think a lot of people are plugging it into a display. I think a lot of people are not using it as probably like they would a Switch. Or there's some people that keep their Switch docked all the time. That's the only way they play their Switch. I think there's a lot of Ally people that are like that too, whether they admit it or not. So, kind of, yeah. I mean, listen, if you're not worried, because there is a difference, right? You can get more juice out of the Ally when it's plugged in, just like the Switch, right? The Steam Deck, it doesn't matter if it's plugged in or not. You're getting what you got. So, yes, there's definitely an advantage to the Ally if you're willing to stay plugged in all the time. So, great, right? I mean, that's the answer to the question is, it's an upgrade. And you're going to probably be able to play in 1080p, and you're going to be able to keep it cranked up to maximum. You're not going to be throttling your TPU. You're not going to be doing any of the nonsense that you would be worried about keeping track of your battery levels, right? Gen 6 and higher emulation, right? If you're looking to run PS3 games, unfortunately Switch games, listen, the Ally's your guy, right? On the Steam Deck will do a pretty good job. It'll even run some PS3 stuff pretty well. Bottom line is, though, is if you're looking at running later than 6th generation games in emulation, listen, just buy the Ally. You'll be happier. You're going to get Windows versions of the emulators, which seem to get updated faster, right? You're going to get all the ease of use where you're not having to worry about all of the other weird interfaces, right? And if you love EmuDeck on the Steam Deck, it's available on the Ally. I got a video. So, yeah, I mean, listen, if late gen emulation is what you're looking for, I would bypass the deck completely. I mean, honestly, it's better. I mean, listen, I've played some Switch games on it. I've played some PS3 games on it, and I can assure you that, I mean, listen, that's where the horsepower comes into play. So, touchscreen is tons better. Good Lord, people. Okay, listen, if you wanted the oddball, clear, greatest feature of the Ally, one that is indisputable, regardless of whether you find 1080p overkill on a 7-inch screen or not, whether you find that the ergonomics are comfortable or not, whether you think that the joysticks are too loose or not, whether your SD card slot works or it doesn't work. In the end, there's one thing that is indisputably better about the Ally, that there's no way we could possibly have an argument about it. That's the touchscreen. And I know what you're thinking. So who cares? It's a game. Who cares about the touchscreen? You will care. You will care about the touchscreen because you're running Windows, right? And you're going to spend a lot of your time in Windows. So as such, having a better touchscreen is a winner. Where else is a good touchscreen a winner? A good touchscreen is a winner when you're dealing with touchscreen emulation, DS, 3DS, right? Anything where a touchscreen might be useful, I can assure you that the Ally definitely takes the touchscreen cup. It's a clear, unmitigated winner. Okay, so that's where my notes run out, but I do have a couple more things to talk about. After I drink some water, of course. So is it better? Is it better for AAA games? Is it better for this? Is it better for that? This is what I've been getting all week long. Is it better for this game? Is it better for that game? I'm going to give you a rule of thumb. It is not 100% set in stone, but this is a good approximation, and it's probably something you could live with and go with 90% of the time. Whatever you're playing in 720p on the Steam Deck, if you're playing it on low settings and you're not turning down TPU or you're not messing with anything, you're full out running it on the Steam Deck, 720p, low settings, you're using a little FSR here and there, right? You're doing what you can, and you're getting 30 to 40 frames per second. Because that's kind of what we have to live with in some cases on the Steam Deck, right? Whatever you're getting on the Steam Deck in 720p, use the same settings on the Ally in 1080p, you'll roughly get the same numbers. Let me run that by you one more time. If you're playing Valheim on the deck and you're running everything at low and you're getting 27 frames per second, and then you go to the Steam Deck and you go to the Ally and you're playing it at 1080p on low settings, the same way you had it all set up on the deck, you're going to get roughly 27 frames per second. It's almost like Asus said, we want to match exactly what the deck is doing, only do it at 1080p. And that's kind of what you got. Now, listen, there's room to play in there, right? I mean, there's always exceptions. There's always going to be a game that's poorly optimized where more CPU is going to help, blah, blah, blah. But the rule of thumb is if you're happy with the Steam Deck, with the performance you're getting on a game, if you go to the Ally and play it at 1080p, you're going to see about the same performance. If you're thinking that the Ally is going to magically get you, high to ultra 60 frames, no, it's not going to happen. What you can expect is commensurate performance on the Ally with the same games, with the same settings, only at 1080p instead of 720p. And that would be what I'd want to know. If I were sitting on the fence right now and I had no idea which one to get. The question is, do you have to have 1080p, or can you live with 720 or 800p? Because in the end, roughly speaking, general rule of thumb is you're going to get the same sort of performance on the deck that you get on the Ally, only you're going to get it in 1080p on the Ally. And if you're one of those people that are dying to keep their battery life low, you're going to kick down to 720p. So now the question is, at 720p, are you going to see better performance on the Ally? Of course you are. Of course you are. You're running the exact same specs as the deck without the screen resolution increase. And you've got more wattage at your disposal if you're plugged in. Damn it, it better run faster. It better run better. But is it crazy better? Is it unbelievably better? And that's sort of the thing that everybody wants to know. Is it worth an upgrade? If you've got a deck and you're happy with everything about it, right? You don't. The Ally's not gonna. It's not gonna cure cancer for you. It's just not. I would call it like a Steam Deck 1.5 with just a really average to crappy interface, which is kind of fair. Everything else you can decide for yourself whether you think that the loose joysticks are a good thing or a bad thing. You can decide whether or not you like the split layout of the control sticks. You can decide whether or not the speakers sound better to you or not, right? There's a lot of subjective things in that argument. But the question is, is it worth an upgrade? Only if you want to play in 1080p, and that's important to you. Then it's an upgrade. Then it's worth your upgrade. If you're planning on worrying about your battery life, you're going to run at 720p anyway. Base unit. All right, let's just say that the Steam Deck is $399. You put a $100 thing in it. Now it's $499. It's $500. Still $200 cheaper than the Ally, right? I mean, what can you do with $200? Hard to say. But my point is that best overall value, like if money wasn't the thing, overall value, dollars to performance, I'd say that they're close. It's just a matter of which audience are you in, right? What do you want to tinker with more, Windows or Linux? Do you need to mod? Are you a Game Pass user, right? All those things that I named just like 10 minutes ago, all of those things are which unit is for you. From a massive performance increase update, nah, because you're going to sit it at 1080p and get the same sort of performance, or you're going to set it to 720p and you're going to be able to turn a few things up and get a little bit better frame rate. Is that worth the upgrade? For some, yes. Most people, probably not. What's worth your initial purchase? You can only own one. What's it going to be? I don't know, man. It's a close race, and it's not the same race. So hopefully, though, with this video, you guys have got an idea as to where the what your use case is, where your comfort level is. Time is money, and listen, if your personal bank of cash, right? And I'm going to leave you with this because we're closing in at an hour here. My time is worth something, and so is yours. In fact, your free time when you're not working, right, should be worth more to you. And your personal salary bank, you should assign an hourly rate to your time. How much is your time worth? $20 an hour? $50 an hour? If one of these units, if the Ally can save you $200 worth of hate and discontent because you spend all your time in BattleNet, or you spend all of your time in EA app, or you're going to spend hours and hours and hours trying to figure out how to mod a game on the Steam Deck, where the Ally's going to give you that time back, that's money. Time is money. It always has been. It always will be. And so you've got to look at it that way. You've got to make the hard call and decide, is your time worth it? For me, my biggest concern with the Ally, and I'm going to wrap this up, my biggest concern of the Ally is, for me, ergonomics. Between the loose sticks and the shell, I don't find it super comfortable for any sort of long-term use. I find myself overcompensating with the sticks. Is this something that I could get used to? I assume so. You get used to anything. But between my PC, my deck, and my Ally, the Ally is the only one that I have real major problems with in terms of getting used to the controls and being comfortable with the controls. So that's something to take into consideration too. All right. Well, listen, I hope you enjoyed this look. No other questions. The chat seems quiet. I see we keep having people come and go. That's great. So hopefully people will be picking this up later and watching it. If you have questions, huzzah. Thank you. Thank you, Javier. Huzzah. If you have questions, please use the community tab or Reddit. I watch both closely. So if I missed something you needed to hear about, you want to know something more about X, Y, or Z, let me know. I have more videos coming. There are more Ally videos coming. And yes, there are more Steam Deck videos coming. I've got stuff in the pipeline. I have to get through sort of this initial thing. I'm going to be doing a comprehensive video of Ally versus Deck. You know, these are all these things that I have to do, right? You guys want to see that. And I will show specific performances. I will show specific battery and power tests, right? These are all things that we need to see, and I need to do videos on them. And hopefully, Steam will fix that nasty problem with the Steam client, which is causing the start, end, and target values not to fill in right. So half my tutorials will go back to working again. You hear me wheezing? That's nasty stuff. So sorry. All right, well, I think we're going to wrap this up. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, you guys. Engage in the community. I've noticed a lot of people have been involved in the community tab. I'll be honest, up until a couple of weeks ago, I kind of forgot that YouTube had a community tab, and I've been enjoying engaging with it. Of course, there's Reddit, but you know, Reddit poses its own particular set of skills against the common folk. So, yeah. Listen, I hope you enjoyed. Please have a great rest of the night. Have a great weekend. My next video out will probably be getting Daphne working through EmuDeck on the Ally. Because, you know, listen, every machine I have has to run Dragon's Lair and Space Ace. You know what I'm saying? So that one's almost done. I just have to do some voiceover work, and that one will be out. And I don't remember what's after that. It's either Ally quality of life changes, or it's some a secret Steam Deck thing I got going on. So, all right, everybody, thanks again for tuning in. This is Shane R. Monroe. Until next time, take care, everybody.